When I was about 5, my father read us C.S. Lewis's cultural classic, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, several times. We all were in awe of Aslan. We were amused by Mr. Tumnus the Faun, and we were scared to death of the White Witch. Culture and environment play a huge role in shaping our spirituality, but there's more involved than that. Personal decision is crucial. And family values and history can't be underestimated. These different ingredients are forged together in the cauldron of our experience and provide a unique way of talking about how we become who we are. My guest today is a witch, but as her name suggests, Victoria Greenwitch Brown isn't like Lewis's stereotyped white witch. Many different influences have led Victoria to choose the way of Wicca. And some of those influences came from her family.
My dad was a keen gardener, and also his mum, my gran, and I spent a lot of time with her and talked about gardening a lot, and how that kept you connected to the earth and helped me watch how things grow and appreciate what's happening in your immediate environment.
Right.
Yeah.
Any particular religious influences on you as a child?
Well, we had to go to Sunday school, which was Anglican, and I never really enjoyed that. And when it came to confirmation at 13, I ran away.
Right.
And to the hills, because, that was the one thing that made sense in the teachings that I'd heard so far, is that you get your strength from
the hills.
The hills. And so at that age, I knew that wasn't my path.
You started working in a pharmacy.
It wasn't something that I was driven to pursue, but it came up in my local town, and I worked there for 7 years and did my dispensary assistant training. But eventually got to the stage where I felt boxed in there and made a decision that I was either going to die there or get out. So I got out
Good call.
And went market gardening for about a year.
So the market gardening was, in a way, following some of those connections you made with your gran all those years earlier?
Well, I knew that would be something that would give me that time to think clearly. It takes away the clutter. It's simple, down to earth work, and it's real work, and it made me more physically aware. It made me a lot more aware of my environment again, which is what I wanted to get back to be able to make decisions for going forward.
Right. Were you married at this stage, Victoria?
Yes, I was. Terry and I were married for quite some time. We had a little caravan on Best Island for a while, and then we built a house there and eventually moved to Upper Mootry on a 10-acre block and did the Earth Mother thing there, growing lots of herbs and piglets. But eventually that fell apart. I went to art and design school. Did quite a bit of photography in Nelson when I was there, and had an exhibition there with a friend, a fellow student. But eventually came up to Wellington to pursue it further, but eventually got sidetracked from that as well.
So what happened there?
Well, I was the student rep nominated in my absence, I must say, for our union, and had a noho marae at the Polytech Marae, and met a wonderful woman there, Aroha Rikas Graham, and she challenged me on what I knew about Māoritanga, or more to the point what I didn't know. And I went away for a week and then braved it to go back and find her, and said, I accept your challenge and I'll do 3 months, but decided that a door had opened and it was too valuable an opportunity to turn down, so I stayed with Māori Studies and did a full year at Polytech, and then went to Victoria University and did a degree in Māori Studies. Right,
and this was all because of this challenge that this woman had given
well,
you
it
a
started
sleepover.
with that, but it was such a huge, wonderful opportunity, and realising as soon as I stepped through that door that this whole world was right on my doorstep, and I hadn't seen it before, hadn't connected with it before, and it was awesome.
Well, what were some of the dimensions that you experienced there that had such an effect?
One of the interesting ones was being a minority culture in the group that I was working with, and that was very much an eye-opener and very valuable learning. But it was the spirituality that kept me there. I was working with a queer Betty Broughton, and she taught me karanga, and that introduced me to the depths of women's spirituality. Having those teachings helped me understand why I felt like I do about living in New Zealand. And it also connected very easily to the green philosophy stuff that I'd worked with for a long time. You're looking after the world today for your descendants, and the learning that you've got today has come from your ancestors, so that whole continuous flow. It was, yeah, a very special time. When I did my Māori studies, I also studied at Massey University with dispute resolution, and met the director of the Waitangi Tribunal, and that was my epitome of, the ultimate place to work in Wellington. Right. And I was fortunate enough to end up working there in communications, and that was full on, very yes. full on, but very, very interesting work, bringing together the whole social justice issues, which I find I'm quite passionate about.
Right.
Organisations have certain protocols and things, and I liked the idea of the freedom of coming and doing a piece of work and then, working with other people as well. So I started a consultancy business and have been very fortunate in the work that I've been able to do. I was working on cultural impact reports for things like the wind farm and Transmission Gully in the early stages of that, and then moved into the education area and worked with the Ministry of Education on the New Zealand curriculum and the Māori education strategy. And more recently I've been working in Wairarapa in health education.
Right.
Things come into your life when they're meant to, and it was a combination of the things we've talked about before, the green philosophy, the Māoritanga, the women's spirituality. And once I left the Waitangi Tribunal and I wasn't as immersed in the Māori culture as what I had been, I was still feeling there was some other aspect to my own spirituality that hadn't quite clicked. And the more I looked, the more I came to understand that what is termed as Wicca was a framework that fitted all those things that I'd been bringing together anyway.
Where does Wicca come from?
Well, it's a North European earth-based religion. It's the pre-Christian English Celtic culture, which is part of my heritage as well.
And it's been kept alive in various forms through the centuries?
Yes, sometimes through different families, sometimes through people who are considered herbalists, healers, wise people, and that's where the whole terminology of the witch comes from.
Right, so the witch is the wise woman.
Yes. And then, of course, there was the period of persecution. And so a lot of that knowledge did go underground, but it's never been lost because the earth still has that knowledge in it. Now, other people, come to it in their own way, but because it has a lot of flexibility within it, because I don't adhere to a strict school, which is something that I'd always resisted in formal religion anyway, is that, I don't believe there is one way. I think that everybody who is seeking spiritual enlightenment is actually heading to the same place. They're just doing it in a different way.
So it's okay then, in terms of Wicca and religion generally, to construct your own religion?
I think it's entirely appropriate and valuable, and I think that that is how religion is supposed to be. If you don't feel it and believe it and live it and work with it, then it's actually somebody else's.
Right. What led you to start a shop in Featherston called Wits End?
I got frustrated with not being able to find the tools that I wanted, so I thought I'll just do it myself.
So what sort of things are we talking about?
We're talking about the ritual tools, which are things like your athames, which is your ritual dagger, if you like, that's only ever used for ritual circle casting. Chalices, wands, cauldrons.
Right. Cauldrons. What do you use a cauldron for, Victoria?
For creating fire, and usually,
Right.
usually for fire. It's a fire pot.
Right.
You know, because they're solid and you can throw things into them to get rid of them. You want to just have a look around?
Yeah, we'll have a look around. I'm definitely interested in hear some Chris.
What do people use these things for?
They represent the different elements. You know, you've got your 4 elements of earth, air, fire and water, and then with your pentacle, which symbolises our faith, the 5th element is spirit. So you're bringing all those elements together in a cohesive unit to give you that balance for your starting point of ritual.
So when you started, did you have a plan in mind?
Well, I did a business course through the Wānanga.
Oh,
because
okay.
I'm so glad I did, or I probably would have been bust by now.
Right.
But the business plan always had the 3 elements of the shop, the website, and doing public ritual.
Right.
But more so now as the teaching side of it, I'd like to get into and helping people create their own ritual. That's like, what do pagan people do when they die? Who's going to run those rituals?
Right, yeah.
So that's something I've been thinking of the whole time, that, even before I opened the shop, creating rituals for people's events, that are going to be meaningful for them and their friends and family.
When you did the business course, you also met your prospective husband.
Yes, I did. He was tutoring the accounting module, and he was the first man who'd made me laugh for a very long time. Right. And we're quite different.
Right. Tell us why.
Clive's from a Salvation Army family and is a Christian, but I think we're both open-minded enough people to see the good that each brings.
Right.
If you're looking for similarities rather than difference, that's what you'll find. We got married at Mount Holdsworth. We both decided we'd like to get married in the forest.
May there be peace in the West.
And we formed a big circle, and it was basically a Wiccan ritual.
Right.
But we'd written it together to bring Clive's spirituality into it. When we were called to the altar in front of the priestess, she asked me who was there in the face of her goddess, and that was me, and he was standing there in the face of his god.
Right.
Who walks the path of the sun to stand before his God and declare his sacred vows?
Is it a wedding in Wicca? Is that what you call it? A
Hand fasting.
Hand fasting.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That means that you can either choose to have it as a ritual on its own without a legal binding contract, or have the legal thing alongside it, which is what we did. But the hand fasting is for a year and a day, which we also did. Right. During the ceremony, your hands are bound together with a ribbon in the infinity knot. It's a symbol that you're joined together forever.
Right.
And after a year and a day, we went back to our priestess, Pamela, and recommitted. And so you've seen the face of each other right through the year.
Right.
And it also brings it very much into your consciousness that you need to be observing each other and mindful of each other.
I now pronounce you husband and wife. Your first act together is to jump the broom, symbolically sweeping away your single lives and leaping into your joint future.
Any conflicts around the spirituality questions?
At times, but no, it's mainly around events. Christmas, for example.
Right.
You may now seal your promise with a kiss.
What's the Wicca take on Christmas?
Well, it's summer solstice. It's leading up to
Right.
summer solstice. That's the event in our calendar. Yeah.
And Easter?
Easter is actually based on a pagan ritual, which is to the goddess Yostra, and that's your spring equinox.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you do at Easter and Christmas, which presumably are important for Clive from a Christian perspective?
Well, Easter is celebrated in New Zealand at the wrong time of year for what the celebration is actually about, seasonally. So I don't actually do anything.
Right, okay.
But Christmas, because I've got a kid, then, you know, you still do the
Right.
Christmas
So there are
thing. And we do the
cultural
family
things there.
thing, you know, because that's going to happen anyway, and that's all good. But, you know, to me, it's from a different perspective.
Victoria, tell me a little bit about where the other people who are part of your Wicca community come from. How did that begin?
That began after I opened Wits End and I approached Stonehenge about doing ritual.
This is Stonehenge
Yeah, in
Carterton.
I hired a bus to take people up so that we could all get to know each other on the way and could explain to them what we were going to be doing, because a lot of people, it was their first experience of Stonehenge.
O Goddess, O God, O Spirit of this place, we ask for your blessings on this, our ceremony.
Once we'd been to Stonehenge for winter solstice and watched that sun go down over the Heelstone, which is an absolutely magical experience. You know, people got off the bus after our dinner and said, well, what's next?
Right.
When can we do it again?
It started something.
Yeah. So it just happened, you
Right.
know. It had always been part of my business plan to be running regular circles, but I didn't expect it to happen so quickly.
Right.
We have a cycle of the year where we practice ritual. It's every 6 weeks, you know, and it's a seasonal cycle, so we're going through the year and celebrating what's happening at different times of the year. The obvious ones are the equinoxes and solstices.
Right.
So that's 4 cardinal points, and then in between those, there's the halfway points in between, which were more of the agricultural celebrations, you know, with your harvests and your planting. And
Almost like a wheel.
yes, that's right, and that's what we do call it, the wheel of the year. And so at the moment we're heading in, we're to the point which is halfway between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice, which is actually our southern Samhain, our Halloween. We're coming up to the season, and who would like to do what? Putting a ritual together is quite a special thing as well, because it means that you're pooling your knowledge and also your learnings from last year and the previous years, and bringing it all together, putting it on the table, and then deciding which bits we'd like to actually work with for this year. It's one of the things I like about Wicca. It's about personal responsibility for your spirituality, for your progress, for your learning. You know, it's not spoon-fed. There's lots of places to learn from, and part of it is learning the questions to ask.
Right. Right. And discovering your own responses to those questions.
Yes, and recording them. You know, that's another part that's very important to us. You know, we have what is called a book of shadows. It's basically a journal, but what we say is, you know, you cast your own shadow, so you write your own book. We look at different chants, we look at different meditations, we look at different things that we will put on the altar, you know, things like your pumpkins and your apples. And it's not necessarily about creating sacred space, it's about bringing the sacred into the space where you are going to do your ritual. You know, for me it's very real working with the seasonal elements, because you can see what's happening externally, and if you can translate that into a personal journey as well, it brings you to great understanding of yourself and where you are right now.
So tell us about what Samhain means, what its significance is for you.
It's a time of entering into the darkest period of the year. The veil is thin between the two worlds, and so it's a time to be connecting with your ancestors and asking for advice, looking at the things in your life that are no longer useful to you and discarding them, looking at your shadow side and the things that you don't actually like about yourself and why you're still carrying them and what you can let go.
What are the two worlds?
Well, there's the mundane world that we live in on the surface here, and then there's the spiritual world. There's that world that you connect, where you connect with the divine. I cast the circle in the name of the Crone of Wisdom, that it may be a boundary for the work that we do and the energy we raise within. As above, so below. The circle is cast where between the worlds. Let only love and peace enter and leave. Welcome. Join us now. Welcome. Adamae na tupune kia mihia kia tangia. I speak firstly to my firstborn. Be 18. And every time I see a fantail, I see his face.
As a Wicca, what do you make of death?
Well, my understanding of death is that it's just another opportunity. It's a transformation, and this time of year is when we actually look at death. And it's interesting that a lot of people still fear death. But in the Wiccan teaching is that, you know, you come from the goddess, you return to the goddess, and so whichever face is turned towards you, it might be the frightening hag at the end of your life and you're a bit scared, but if you actually turn back and have a look, you'll see that she's the mother, and so there's nothing to be afraid of.
My parents, who I lost just 3 months apart. My friend and mentor, Michelle, Rhiannon, taken too soon.
Is that a kind of reincarnational thing?
It could be. You know, I have not decided for myself, you know, how reincarnation actually works, but I don't believe it's an end.
Right.
We remember you all and send our love so we can sign this wreath of remembrance to the flames. You'll be with us always. The goddess is ultimately important to me. You know, it comes from the whole concept of the Mother Earth thing, the nurturer, and you know, the womb and the tomb. You know, if you've got things that grow, they start on the ground, they grow, they seed, they go back to the ground and wait until the time is right. And that's how I see life as working. So, you know, that whole Mother Goddess thing is very easy to work with. And I work with that energy in that way because the goddess has been denied for so long, and I think it's very important to be working with the female energy at this time in the evolution of our planet, because it's in such a bad way and we need to do things differently.
I call upon the goddess to bless this apple as the food of the dead, which reminds us of the promise of the crone, the Banshee Keliach, the promise of passage from one life to the next. May all spirits who pass here find sustenance in it. So might it be.
You learn about different goddesses and their personalities, their aspects, the correspondences that go with them. Are they fiery? Are they passive?
Right.
You know, and you can work with that energy directly in the rituals that you put together for yourself. Hecate, Edwin, dark mother, draw us in. Hecate, Edwin, let us be renewed.
The traditional Christian view might be that God is there and is a reality, and you don't get to pick and choose. On the other hand, of course, some people might decide there's a particular saint they find particularly helpful
right.
to model themselves on. Is that a model that helps us to understand what you're saying?
I guess so, but I guess the difference too is that Wicca doesn't say there is one way, and it certainly doesn't
Right.
tell me that I need to speak to a man to speak to another man.
Right.
It is the grandmother, the hag, who holds the key to the greater and more comprehensive personality. You are required to surrender to the journey and embrace your dark side.
For a lot of people, the word witch has got quite negative connotations, and that may come from Hollywood, or it might come from Macbeth or wherever. Do some people within the community project that onto you?
Fortunately, I haven't found very much of that negativity, and whenever I do, you know, it's quite easy as a rule to step back from it because I know it's their misinformation
Right.
and not understanding. You know, with Macbeth and, you know, the hubble bubble thing and throwing Eye of Newton stuff into the cauldron, they were actually names for herbs. It's not like you're going out and, you know,
Getting a Newton
dismembering these things and sticking them in your pot. You know, that's not what it was. They were making a herbal concoction, and probably for healing. You know, a lot of herbalists and healers in the past were named witches. For mine is the secret that opens the door to understanding. That is, if that which you seek you find not within yourself, you will never find it without.
One of the other things
Take a
people,
deep breath.
I guess, associate with witches is this whole area of magic and spells. How do you understand those things?
To me, magic is actually understanding how synchronicity works. It's about being open to the connections between things and working with focus to help things connect. That's what magic is, you know. So when you focus your intent and it works, your magic works, it's because you've actually worked with the energy flow and you're in balance with it. And we've all had experiences of that to some degree in our lives. With spells, it's not that much different to what a lot of people do in prayer, except perhaps that we may bring different ingredients together to help with that focus. You love spells, you bring in your rose quartz and your rose and stuff like that. You know, if you're looking at exams, you might use citrine for a clear mind. You know, for business, you know, you might have your malachite to stabilise your business premises.
So it's about a focus rather than about a supernatural change to things.
I don't think anything is supernatural. Everything is natural. You're just working with it with greater awareness.
Since you've recognised this kind of focus for your spiritual life, your life has been enriched.
Definitely, hugely enriched, not just through understanding more of what I'm doing for myself in ritual, but by being able to help other people understand that as well. And then, of course, we've got this group that is supportive of each other, and, you know, that's like another little family network that we've created. So, you know, it's been very special in many ways. And with the shop, you know, I have people coming in there, it's called Wits End, and that's because sometimes they come in stressed out and they go, thank goodness there's somewhere, you know. It is a meeting place. I see it as a communication centre, and it's also somewhere where people can stop spinning and just sit. And sometimes they come in and they want to talk, sometimes they want to browse, sometimes they want to read, and whatever they want to do is fine. But, you know, it's to help them understand, you know, if they're stressed out, there's a reason for it, and to help them slow down and to see that reason and give them somewhere safe to actually face that reason.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.